Thanks a lot, Naz. Now, regional allies in the Middle East continue to negotiate the release of hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Yesterday, 2 women freed by the terror group described going through a hell which they never, ever imagined when they were kidnapped.
Well, joining us now is Kamal Tabihka, the National's Cairo correspondent. Kamal, we know that Egypt, Qatar and other regions are working on these hostage negotiations. Are we hopeful that we'll see more of the 200 captives released sometime soon?
I think some people are hopeful, but what has to be considered here is the larger political game that the hostages are a part of. So Israel controls the entire Gaza Strip. They control entry of food, water, aid, medicine. They haven't allowed fuel in. So it's undeniable that they have control over the entire area. And so Hamas is going to, understandably, keep the hostages, release them maybe 2 at a time, 1 at a time, because this is an important bargaining chip for Hamas. And Israel has been really aggressive, so it hasn't responded to Hamas's calls for ceasefires or making peace.
Kamal, I have to put something to you, sir. Your rhetoric. They are being reasonable and Israel hasn't responded. I need to take you back 3 weeks when Hamas, a terrorist organisation, created bloodshed and horror for 1,400 Israelis. That is a relevant point, my friend, isn't it?
It's a relevant point, but I think that also it's more relevant to consider a lot of other more extensive bloodshed that Israel has caused there for 50, 60 years. But also, I'm not going to debate ideological points on it. I guess I understand that in this case, people are going to think that one act is more horrible than the other.
Let's talk about the humanitarian thing, because you implied that Israel was stopping food and humanitarian aid coming through. It's a question I wanted to ask yesterday. If there's a border with Egypt, why doesn't Egypt have as much involvement in the traffic of those goods as Israel, if it's a joint border? Quick question for you.
Well, because Israel controls, Israeli negotiations also control the stuff that goes in through Egypt. And at the start of the conflict, Egypt said that it was ready to send in aid, but Israel blocked the aid. And then there were negotiations happening behind closed doors, because obviously Israel is going to the lack of aid in Gaza is an important card for Israel. And I've been told by a number of sources that it was Israel that was blocking the entry of aid since the beginning, and it makes sense. It's a political game. So why would you give up that really quickly,
And Kamal, prior to this particular stage in the conflict, there were about 100 to 500 trucks worth of aid going in and out of the region. Now we believe it's gone down to 20, which obviously is going to have devastating consequences, not only for the Palestinian people, but also for the hostages that Israel are claiming to want to, to want to retrieve. So how is that going to affect not only local Palestinians, but also Israeli hostages?
Well, again, I think the aid is an important bargaining chip. So Israel will allow aid because of international pressure and because the UN's General Secretary was down there and negotiations with Arab countries. But in the end, it's not going to just allow all this aid in. It's not going to make Gaza comfortable. So 20 trucks, which is really nothing compared to what they were getting before. Because what you have to understand, this is a closed area. They don't, the economy is basically not there. They don't get a lot of supplies. And so these, like you were saying, per day, they were getting 500 trucks of aid from various organizations before. And now it's 20. And that is Israel's condition.
Kamal, your opinion,
it's a trickle.
Your experience of reporting in that area, where does this end? Does this end with Egypt having more of a say in terms of the border? Does this end with the destruction of Hamas? I know it's a wide-ranging question, and peace, or is this a problem in your mind, my friend, that can't ever go away?
See, I don't know if it's as simple as that. I think that maybe, because now the question is getting bigger. China has deployed troops. The US has deployed troops. Every day we're hearing news of mounting possibility that it might, spill over into a wider regional conflict. And then you have Iran threatening Israel with its various proxies. The Houthis have fired rockets. But then when it comes to Egypt, I think that it's important to understand that it's not going to be in Egypt's interest to enter the war, however much its population wants it to. because we do have to separate. There are two realities happening with the war. There's the reality of Arabs just watching the coverage of the war and thinking, why aren't our governments doing anything? And then you have the political reality of the fact that governments in this area don't really have that much power to stop it. And I think that this is something that a lot of people are coming up against now. A lot of Egyptians I'm speaking to are surprised at how little geopolitical power Egypt has to stand up to this. Which then makes the question of a wider regional war involving Egypt, I think Egypt would just enter as a calmer of the conflict. It's not going to be an aggressor towards anyone. Because, you know, there's a lot of debt, there's
is everything all right there, Kamal? Well, we thank you for joining us this morning. We think
thank you, Kamal. Thank you so much.
Kamal Tabihka, for joining us this morning.